In this video, I'll be sharing with you how to do a proper corset caging for a plus size or a busty person. Are you still having issues on how to draft your corset pattern? Join me on my online 5 days corset class where I'll be teaching you how to take proper measurement for your corset and how to draft different types of corset. So to join the class, go ahead and send us a message on our WhatsApp number. So here's my pattern paper, and I've gone ahead to mark out the basic measurements I need. So what I need is the shoulder to bust of the person, under bust, and I'll just add few inches which will serve as the waist, but that is not the actual waistline. Now I'll go ahead to mark the shoulder divided by 2, and I'll come down by 1 inch. The shoulder I'm using is 16 inches divided by 2. I have 8. From my shoulder slant, I'm going to go ahead to divide the bust circumference divided by 6. So the bust I'm working with is 45. So 45 divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches, what I got was 9 inches. So for the chest line area, I'll place my tape and I'll measure about 9 inches from my shoulder slant. I'll go ahead and draw out a straight line at that point and also mark what I have back at the shoulder on the chest line. Place my ruler and connect. I'll divide what I have here into 2 and I'll mark. Come out by ½ inch. Go ahead to divide the bust circumference by 4. So the bust is 45 inches divided by 4. I have roughly 11.25, and I'll go ahead to mark. After marking, you're going to place your curve rule from this point to that ½ inch and to the upper part. After I'm done marking this, I'll go ahead to mark out the dart. So the nipple to nipple I have is 8.5 inches. Divided by 2, I have 4.25. Now I'm going to mark this all the way going down to the lower part of the pattern. After that, I'll place my ruler and connect. After I'm done connecting, I'll be marking the dart intake. I'll mark 1.5 inches here and mark 1.5 inches on the other side. Now I'll place my ruler and I'll connect at both sides of my pattern. Now I'll connect from the bust down to the under bust and repeat this at the other side of my pattern. So after I'm done marking that, I'll go ahead to use my marker to outline to make it more visible for you to see. Now is to determine where your cup will start. You can come down by 7 inches from your shoulder, or you can use 2.5 to 3 inches above your chest line, because most times for a busty person, when they wear a bustier or a corset, their bust always pop up at the upper part. So to make sure that you don't reveal your cleavage, you can use up to 3 inches. So for your darts, you can decide to mark 1 inch here and then mark 2.5 at the other side of your pattern, or you can divide it into 1.5 inches on both sides and then you go ahead to connect. The side you can mark 2 inches, and then at the inside part, that is the center, you use 1.5 inches. So I'm using 1.5 inches here and 2 inches at the other side, and I'll go ahead to connect. After I'm done connecting, I'll use my marker to blend it out. So from this side, I'll go ahead and go up by ½ inch and come down to that point by ½ inch. Most times, if you're working for a busty person, it's best to go up a bit after the chest line. So I'll just go ahead and connect this to the upper part of my pattern this way. And after I'm done connecting, we are going to work on the side of the cup. So to mark out the cup, go ahead to mark the nipple to nipple divided by 2 plus 1 inch, or you can even add 1.5 inches by the side to accommodate the bust. Next, I will mark the bust circumference divided by 4 and add small allowance. So I'm not making the dress. That's why I didn't replace the dart intake at the upper part. We are just focusing on the cup. And I marked what I have at the under bust and just added the sewing allowance. So I did not go ahead to replace the dart because I'm not actually making the dress. For the bust dart, I'm using 2.5 inches, and after marking that, I'll go ahead to place my ruler and connect. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to use my marker to outline this part of my pattern. Then I'll go ahead to blend out the dart so that I can draw out my cup, place it, and I will mark out. So when I'm connecting to this part, I'll extend it up a bit to make up for the part of the dart that we took out. You know that a busty person, by the side, the bust might be popping up. In some cases you can just replace the full cup if you want, but if you don't, you can just go ahead to extend the armhole up a bit so that the person's bust will not be popping up at the side, because for a busty person the bust is fuller by the side of the dress. So I'll just go ahead and blend this and I will tape it up, and next I'll go ahead to cut out the cup. So if you're still having issues in cutting out your basic corset pattern, you can go ahead to join us on our 5 days corset class, where we'll be teaching you how to draw 5 different types of corset and how to take proper measurement for your corsets and the darts that you can take for each type of corset. So now I went ahead to blend my cup together. Now I want to draw out the shape of the cup that I want. So I want to use a 3-part corset. So if you're making a bust caging, it's best to go for a 3-part corset. That way it helps your cup curve faster. So after marking this, I'll just go ahead and choose between the style lines that I marked out on the cup. So I'll just be going for the first one and I'll go ahead to cut it out and place it on my pattern, and I will go ahead to cut out. After cutting out, I'll blend up the upper part as one piece and I will transfer it to my fabric and also the bra foam I'm going to use. Note, I'm using the same fabric as my main piece and also the lining part. So I'll go ahead and label my cup as A and B so that I don't misplace this part. Next, I'll transfer this on a fabric. So my fabric is a bit rumpled, so I'll also go ahead to iron it out. So while cutting out, go ahead to add 1/2 inch round your material or whatever fabric you're using, and I'll also cut out this other side of my cup. So on the main piece, I'll be ironing an stay, and for the lining part, I'm going to be using a bra foam. So whenever I'm working for someone that has a bigger bust, it's best to use an interfacing that has a support very well, especially if it's your first time doing a caging for a plus size. That way it will reduce the stress or wide boning your corset. It turns out easier and better when you're caging your bust caging for a plus size. So but for the bra foam, I'll be cutting exactly. So after cutting out exactly, I will even trim out a little from it at the upper part, because of the caging I'll be sewing at the upper part. Whatever space you have on the upper part of the bust caging cup should be at least 0.75. That is round the cup, because you are going to be sewing boning around the cup. So I'll go ahead and place my hemming gum and I'll iron it out. I'll go ahead to place and iron the other ones out also. And this is my main piece. I went ahead to iron an stay on it and I'll just trace it out. After cutting out the unnecessary parts I have on the stay, what I'm going to do now is to go over to the sewing machine and we'll start stitching. So I've already started joining the lower part. Now I will now join the upper part of the cup together. That is the main piece of my cup. And after I was done stitching, I took out the pins and I'll just take one part, push it to one side. That is the joining I have. I'll push it to one side and I'll just go ahead to stitch it down. So if you don't want to do this, it's totally okay. You can just go ahead to trim off the excess a little, because you still turn it to the right side, so no one is going to actually see what is underneath it, but it has to be neat. So I'll go ahead and start joining the lining part, which has the bra foam on. I'll be stitching with 1/2 inch or so. After stitching this part, I'll just go ahead and trim out the foam I have here. So this is what the cup is looking like already. I'll bring the upper part and join it to the middle and then pin it to the end. While you're sewing this, it's very important to pin, because it helps you to place your cup very well and it will align. Now after pinning this, I'll go ahead and place it on the sewing machine and I'm going to stitch it down with 1/2 inch, and I'll stitch it down to the other side of the cup. So after I'm done stitching this, right, I will take out the pin and This is what my cup looks like. Now you can go ahead to trim out the excess you have, or you can leave it and then top stitch it on the other side, which I am doing right now. So if you notice, the cup is already curved without having doing much on the cup already. So I'll just go ahead and stitch this out. This is what I have already. It is sitting properly. So the next step I'm going to take now is to go ahead to start boning or caging the corset. So I'll just trim out a little excess and make sure that the space I have around it before the bra foam should be at least 0.7. Now you now draw out the areas where you'll be sewing the bust caging on. So now I'll just go ahead and mark out the center. After marking out the center, I'll go ahead to trim out this excess that I have at this part of the cup. So now I'll go ahead to connect this way. You can just decide to run one across and run one across the other, but if you like, you can double it. And now I'll just draw like a semicircle. That part will push out your cup. So now I'll start from this part, and before I start, I had to use my paper sellotape to gum the upper part, that is to tape the upper part to avoid it from poking the person putting on the dress. Now you're going to follow the mark that you drew out and you're going to stitch. After stitching the first part, don't top stitch again. You top stitch that when you're done sewing. Now you also place this boning underneath that first one and you take it to this point. Also tape that side and you're going to sew it. After you're done sewing your cup, this is what you have. Now you have to start fixing your boning to from this side to the other side. So you have to push it inside the first boning which you have made, and then you cross it over this way. Then you now start stitching. After stitching on this first line, you stitch on the second line, but whatever boning you have, you should make use of the 0.25 inches boning. This boning is easier, especially for a beginner. It saves you the stress of trying to do a cup caging, and it will help your cup caging not to come out flat, especially if you're a beginner. It saves you a lot of stress. So I'll now go ahead to stitch this part of this cup also. After I'm done stitching, I'll start by stitching the other side of the cup. Now this is what the cup is looking like already without doing much. Now I'll pass this underneath it, and whenever you're passing your boning, make sure that you place it as if you're forcing the boning to push out the cup. So that way it will give your cup a more rounded and push out effect. So I'll just cut this out and pass it underneath this way, and I'm going to stitch. Now after stitching, I'll restitch it on the other side again, and this is what I have. So sorry, this video is a little too fast. The actual video is up to 2 hours plus, so I had to like increase the speed to reduce how long the video is actually. So after this, I'll just go ahead and pass this underneath this way, and I'll pass my boning. So after I'm done doing this, I'll place it, like push it. If you notice what I'm doing, I'm pushing it with this way. It will push out your cup, and it will make your cup not to be flat, because if you use the actual measurement and just place and sew on your cup might turn out flat. So after this, I went ahead to top stitch on that same boning. After stitching on it, I'll go ahead to stitch on the other side of the boning too. Then we'll now stitch on the center part of the boning, and this part is the very important part, because this part will push out your cup at the center and make your cup not to be so flat at the center. Like it will give it a little pointy effect at this point. So after I was done fixing it, like pushing it out, so I had to just cut out the part that will not fit in, and then I'll push in the boning this way, and I went ahead to top stitch it on the sewing machine. So after I was done stitching it, the next part I will be stitching on this cup is the last mark that I have that is in form of a semicircle. So while sewing this part is slightly difficult, so you just have to be patient and follow the line gradually. So I will just go ahead and turn it. So that is the importance of using the 0.25 boning. It saves you the stress when you're turning or sewing a semicircle. It is very flexible, unlike the 0.5 inches boning. That type of boning is quite difficult to work with, especially if you're a beginner. So after this, I'll just go ahead and stitch on the cup all the way around. So after I was done stitching, this is what the cup looks like. Now we are going into molding our cup. So this is one of the important parts of your cup caging. If you don't iron very well, your cup might not really come out or sit properly. So I had to reduce the steam of the iron first, and I started ironing it out. So this is very important. You have to also go ahead to iron. And if you notice, I'm folding my cup a bit, like I'm trying to make it have that cupped or curved effect. So I started by ironing it with a low heat. So when I gradually like achieve what I want, I can now go ahead to use or increase the heat of my iron. So I'll just do this gradually. So if you don't have a steam iron, you can also reduce the heat of your iron just like I'm doing right now, unless you have a steam iron that you can easily iron it out. So after ironing, this is what my cup looks like. So if you notice, it is very deep. Now I turned it to this side and I'll also iron it out. But first I will be fleshing the cup. So to flesh the cup, I'll place my hemming gum. Now you can use your fiber or wadding, soft wadding. Don't use the thick one. So I have a soft wadding at home and I'm making use of it. So you have to iron. The only difference is that when you're making use of a soft wadding, it takes time to stick, so you have to be patient. So after that, I cut out the excess and I went ahead to re-iron, and this is what I have. Now I'm going to be joining this part of my cup to the other side. So to join it, I'm going to go ahead to stitch the upper part together. But before I start doing that, I'll pin it down. So now let's say you're making your transparent corset or you're fixing this to your corset. You have to first of all go ahead to join the part that doesn't have, that has the boning on at the back part facing the right side, right? Then you now use your main fabric to cover. But since we are just working on the how to do a proper bust caging, I'll just go ahead to stitch the upper part and I'll fold in the side and I'll be joining it or top stitching it with 1/2 inch. So I'll just go ahead and fold in the sides together. So this is the reason why you have to at least take in 0.75 after your interfacing. With this way, it's easier for you to cover your cup and you don't have to go through a lot or struggle to like cover your cup, either when you're attaching it or you're folding it in. So even if you're having issues folding it in this way, you can actually flip it to the other side of the cup. That way it is easier. That is sewing from the back, but you have to be careful. That means you have to like fold. That means you have to drag your front and the back together first and then pin it. That is if you can't do it properly, but if you can easily do it just like I'm doing, just go ahead to fold your cup. So after I was done, this is what I have, and I'll now go ahead to iron my cup. So right now, after ironing, this is what my cup is looking like, and I'll go ahead to now increase my heat because I'm almost done with my cup, and I'll just sprinkle little water on it also while ironing. So I don't have a steam iron, right? If you have a steam iron, you can go ahead to like iron it directly. So I'll just sprinkle little water and I will start re-ironing it so that it will give me the cupped effect that I want. That is the curved effect on your cup. So this is the part that you have to mold your cup. that is, you have to take time when you're ironing this, because this will give you the actual results you want to have on your cup. Whatever result you have while ironing your cup, this is how your cup will be or sit. So you have to be patient and take time also to iron this. So if you notice, it's taking me a lot of time to also iron out my cup. So after I'm done ironing, I'll still go ahead to sprinkle and I'll iron it over and over again. So I'll be showing you the final result. And also, if you still want to join our online class where we'll be teaching you how to draft different types of corsets, if you're a beginner that is still struggling with how to draft out your corset, or you don't know the proper dart intake or measurements to take while drafting your corset, go ahead to join our corset drafting class. So after I was done, this is the final result. And if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and leave your comment at the comment section.